Hey, Brian.
Hi, Haley. Good morning. Good afternoon. Well, it's actually a little after. No, nope. It's good morning.
Still
Shut
morning.
up, Brian.
I think it's very, it has been one of those moments in time for probably, it feels like forever, but really it feels like the last 10 days have been this weird time warp where it's like, what day is it? What time is it? Where am I? What am I doing? So much seems to be moving so quickly, but at the same time in slow motion, or we don't seem to be moving forward.
Well, we know, I think and I think it's so much of it, Haley, is COVID related. We see signs and we're getting messages that it's time to start reentry into the new normal. But I found personally that even as an extrovert, I need a little guidance with reentry. I need to be patient with myself because I'm not ready for it. And I'm going to check in with you on that. But just to give you an example on the mask issue, a couple of days ago after the CDC said, if you've been vaccinated, don't worry about wearing your mask unless you're in a hospital or airport, public transportation. So I went to the cleaners and I didn't put it on, and they were all so happy because they'll put it up if somebody walks in with a mask, right? And then I went into Fresh Market and everybody had a mask on but me. And this is in Broward County, Florida, very progressive. So this woman that I really like, who was behind the meat counter, read my beads about not wearing a mask, saying, COVID is everywhere. Don't believe what you're told. So I happen to have one in my pocket and I put it on just for the sake of lack of hassle, not because I agreed with her. But I was a little disgruntled, that of course I get, if I'm shamed or and I think it's unfair, all these feelings come up in me, I think from childhood.
Great point there. When we feel shamed or we're in trouble, all of that feeling comes up and it's like, retreat.
It's
and
not my fault.
why am I retreating?
Yeah.
And rush forward. I've had a similar experience this last week where I had posted something on Instagram and Instagram took it down. And
Why?
They don't give me a reason for it, but I believe it was considered pro-Palestinian. And I had that same thing where I was like, what? Like, what is going on here? But wait a minute, I'm not, like, nothing about that was pro-Palestinian. It was pro.
Right.
I made it very clear. What I had posted was a newsreel of Israel bombing Gaza. That's what it was. It was Israel planes dropping bombs on Gaza. And I wrote on top of that, on all levels, on all sides, it is heartbreaking when another human hurts another human. That was taken down as pro-Palestinian.
Well, I got an inquiry from a gay man who I kept trying to help figure out how to meet other people because he was just coming out late in life. And he said he was conservative. So I said, well, there's the Log Cabin Republicans. And it got taken down by not by Facebook, but by whoever was running the page, saying we're non-political here. I thought, I'm just giving an example of where he might find, like-minded people. It wasn't a comment on Log Cabin Republican. But at any rate,
how do we find ourselves in this?
Well, I think it's gotten worse. I think everyone feels so touchy. I'm touchy. I find that when I'm watching television, my buttons get pushed so fast and I'm talking back to the television. I think that, oh my God, they're gonna take me away, lock me in a room with a television. But I have, and I know in my mind, you're not in the right place. This is not who you want to be. But boy, I'm shocked at, even bringing up, just if I can, as an example, the Republican effort to stop the bipartisan investigation into the insurrection at the Capitol, and how Mitch McConnell is saying, I'm like crazy with anger at Republicans. And then I start going, okay, now how do you separate the people from the behavior? You can judge the behavior, but don't judge the people. But my instinct is to say something snarky about Mitch McConnell. And it's, believe in right thought, right speech, right behavior. I'm pretty good. I'm doing good on the right speech and right behavior, but right thought,
I think patience, and with us coming out of COVID, we have a lot of expectations just on COVID. We have a set of expectations that we're going back to the normal. We're not going back into normal. What was is not. So it's letting go of that expectation first, that we're going back to normal now, because there is no normal. There's also this expectation that we've spent a lot of time, almost a year and a half, isolated, inward, being safe at home. Surely something's changed for the better. Surely this world that we're now going into is better. It's just as safe as being at home. And we're finding that, again, that's an expectation that really isn't there. Things aren't better. Things, I think, are even more chaotic now. And it is almost harder to find your footing and to find your center throughout the day, because there's just so much bombarding from all sides. So patience, I think, is the number one tool here. But first, patience with yourself. Because if you can't be patient with yourself, how can you be patient with anybody else? And that has been my sort of question to myself through the last, especially the 10 days, but it has been sort of the last 6 months or so, and even throughout COVID, when I do see stuff that's going on in the world, I see what's going on in the US, I see the contradictions. And for me to find my place in the contradictions, because I do have a very strong warrior energy. My energy would love to be going straight into activists and straight into the fight. But does that make me better than anybody else? Does that make me better than the people I'm upset with? Or have I now joined them and there's no difference? And every time I have a think about that, fine, I see the contradiction. Am I being the contradiction? Really slows me down. Do we have a price?
So, yeah, you're there, but I don't know, will it show up when you freeze? Because you're freezing a lot.
I hope not.
Well, let's move on, unimpeded. So I wrote you last night, and this is a segue to what I wanted to talk about too, because they're related. I wrote you last night and asked you if you had Netflix and if you've been watching Jupiter's Legacy. And it's about superheroes and their children, and the older ones, which would be my generation, have abided forever by a code in which you don't kill anybody. But their kids, who are now superheroes, are saying the world order has changed. You just don't get it. It doesn't work the same way. People don't act the same way as they used to. And sometimes, killing is the only way to stop them from taking our own life. And there's this struggle between the old and the new. And there's a news report on the program that 78% of Americans agree that violence is necessary to stop violence. And this is driving the older people crazy because they've lived their whole lives based upon this truth that it's not okay. And they're struggling with whether or not the codes change. Well, I identified with that completely because, you know, when I graduated from college, it was the first year of the Vietnam draft, and mine was an early number, and I was a conscientious objector, and I believed in my heart, in my soul, that I would never feel justified in killing another living thing, even. And you know, now I'm killing iguanas right and left. Protect.
I just killed a bunch of ants.
Protect the garden, you know, which I have a responsibility to, these living things. But also, Ray and I talked last night, and I said, you know, well, what would you do if I was being attacked? He said, well, I would kill him. and he would. And, you know, I don't know what would stop me if the same thing was happening. And I'm the same person, you know, that I was. In fact, I think my soul is even further advanced, but it's unnerving to see how what you believe in is, you're on quicksand sometimes, and it's hard to get your footing. Can you relate to that?
Absolutely, absolutely. And it has been a very conscious practice every single day to center myself and to make sure that I'm not being the contradiction. And that's really been my goal every day. Don't be the contradiction. So, you know, truth is a big part of that. And again, it starts with the individual. Your truth as a conscientious objector is a fundamental truth of, it's a law of the universe. It's compassion, it's love, unconditional love. I don't believe that we are meant to kill. I don't believe that we are meant to hurt humans. I think the reason why we're here on earth is to unravel out of that and come to a place of compassion, of love. We are still learning as humanity to figure this all out. And, you know, it's going to take the last person on earth before we figure it all out. And there's a lot of people on earth to try and understand and unwind out of personal trauma to a place where they can see every life has a divine right to life. So when I'm trying to find my grounding in that, I have to look at myself and give myself the patience and the honor of my truth. I think it's totally okay. Did I just freeze it? I can hear it. That's so weird. It's almost like there's a voice coming in.
Yeah.
I guess there's a lot to say today. A lot of people have a lot to say.
And we don't care about that. We're not auditioning for an MGM film. You know, this is you and me chatting, and anyone wanting to listen to it who finds this of interest, great. But I want to push you a little bit if I can.
Yeah.
To tell me, you know, when are you finding it the hardest to live up to your principles, to your values?
I find it the hardest every single day. I find it the hardest when I am looking, when I see social media posts about destruction of any humans. I find it difficult when I see the US trying to go in and be a peacekeeper when I don't believe the US is a peacekeeper. So it's every time I step out of my little world it takes enormous effort for me to just breathe. Don't be the contradiction.
Well, when you say the U.S. isn't the peacekeeper, that doesn't mean that it can't be, right?
It can't, and I think the opportunity for every single one of us to be love is always there. Mm-hmm. The opportunity for the US to embody the values that they are so proud to speak of mm-hmm. always exists.
And there are, and one of the things I want to say, and I believe there are really, really good people out there, really good people, and
people that just don't get the coverage. And I think it's really a reflection of where media is and has the journey of media, which has been to tell the bad story, sensationalize the bad story. That's what it was.
Well, and it's not media's fault. The reason media does it is that we want it.
We're fed on it,
Yeah.
I think there's
if you were standing in line in the grocery store, Hayley, and there was one magazine called Good News, and the other was reporting on some atrocity. The majority of people want to know, they want they don't consciously do it, but they get a thrill out of imagining this awful thing having happened.
Trauma.
And our attraction to it, like the moth to the flame.
It's like people slowing down for a car crash.
Right. But the very same people will stop for an iguana in the middle of the road, not wanting to hit it, or ducks walking across. I mean, we ourselves, all of us are a contradiction, because we're capable of doing such amazing, wonderful, touching, deeply touching things. And then we're capable of doing some really stupid things. Speaking of stupid, I don't, and I shouldn't use the word, it's very judgmental. I don't get the gay, whoever's in charge of gay pride in New York, banning gay police officers from marching with them. If
that organization, I lived in New York and I went to the gay pride parade, and I went once and I never went again, because I was like, I looked at it and I was like, where's the gay pride? It was a corporate sponsorship. That's all it is.
Well, I'm going to push back on you if I can, because the corporation, the corporate part of it is not that the corporations thought they'd capitalize on it, although there are some, liquor companies or condom companies that feel it's a great opportunity to, all those banners of, IBM and AT&T, those are gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender people, bi-gendered, and the
what is going on
today? And I don't have to worry anymore about getting fired, because my company supports me. And I want you to know that I'm carrying this banner to say, this company where I work and I'm proud of, is behind me. Not that I'm here hoping that you'll buy IBM stock. That's not what it, because me, I've worked with all these corporations for years and with the people in them, and they're so proud and excited to be able to carry the banner of it's, what's the difference besides that and an Episcopal church, local, carrying a banner, All Saints supports LGBTQ people. Are we shoving religion or Christianity down people's throat by allowing them to carry the banner, especially when Christianity has done such horrible things in some instances to people's lives? I think everybody ought to be able to march if they're out, and that they ought not to have to deny an enormous part of their life I mean, being a police officer or a firefighter is as huge to them as being a doctor or a nun or a priest is, you know, to those people. And we're not asking the priest to take his collar off when he marches. We're actually excited when he or she in the Episcopal Church and others have it on, because it says, finally, after years and years and years of us being alone, we have your support. What do you say about that?
I think everybody has the freedom to march. I think, and everybody has the freedom to be who they are. In the world that we're in right now, it's controlled. It is, you know, the face of it is controlled. And that's far more important than the freedoms.
Well, controlled by who?
It's controlled. It's controlled by people that are more concerned about what others perceive than what is the truth.
Yeah, I consider myself really progressive, but there are times when people on the far left shake me up and I think, whoa, wait, whoa, stop, slow down. I really want to understand how you came up to this decision. I imagine that there are people who say the presence of a police officer traumatizes me because my whole relationship with the police has been difficult my whole life.
Okay.
I get that, but the gay police officer who's marching, right? We're not saying that he or she is the person who has been oppressing you. We're saying this person has hidden in the police ranks for their whole lives and now finally can come out. And now we want to force them out of the parade. It doesn't feel right to me.
I think trust that though, because your truth and that fundamental truth that we all have, which is our divine right, which is the sacred truth, is common amongst everybody. It gets distorted when people choose to no longer pay attention to that truth and they're listening to everybody else's truth, or what they perceive is a better version of the truth based on convenience. So when we see these things that, get really deep and we're like, I can't fathom this. I don't understand it. I don't even know what to do about it. That's when patience is required. Patience first with yourself to be able to say, this is my truth that is being challenged. I do believe that if we took more time to say that to ourselves and to be in that moment of, okay, this is a fundamental truth that is being challenged. It's not a belief system that I picked up along the way from outside. It's a fundamental truth. I think that will go a long way in allowing us to stay in that empowered energy. Because what happens a lot of the time is when that fundamental truth is questioned, we immediately go into a place of doubting it. They must be right. I must be wrong.
Such as, so let's put a fundamental truth out there and talk about like that no person should be killed.
I think let's stick with the march. I think every person has a right to march.
Right, within certain parameters. I mean, I understand, do the organizers want to have people marching man boy love, for instance? Remember, you probably don't know this, but there's an organization called the National Association of Man Boy Love, NAMBLA. And these are individuals who argued that throughout places in history, older men and young boys, but to many others, this is pedophilia, or at the very least, a phobophilia. Do you know the difference between the two?
No.
Okay, because a lot of people use pedophilia as a word that covers sexual abuse of anybody under 18, right? And that's not. Pedophilia is restricted to adolescent. it has to be after puberty. It's pre-puberty. After puberty, it's called a phebophilia. So, one can be interested in teenage boys, and you could argue, well, are they really ready to make decisions at 13 versus a 4-year-old who's getting raped, which is a very different, issue. But at any rate, so going back to your anyone should be able to march, should, somebody who is into 4-year-olds and proud of it and wanting to change the culture's attitudes about it, do you want them to have a banner in the march?
I think they have a right to it.
Okay. Well,
every single right that I have is extended to every other being.
Yeah.
Does that mean that murderers, a person that has willingly taken the life of, like a serial killer, has a right to be walking the streets and be able to say that that was my divine right to kill somebody? No, because that wasn't their divine right to kill somebody. We don't have that right. So my right to not kill somebody is the same as that person's right to not kill somebody.
Right, but is it? But we don't have a divine right to molest children.
There's a difference there between marching and molesting or taking power from other people. Is it their divine right to march? Absolutely. Is it their divine right to hurt another human? No.
Is it their divine right to march and carry a sign that says, I'm gay and I hurt other people?
Do they? Or is that your perception that they're carrying a sign that I'm gay and I hurt other people?
No, I'm just going back to the, where this is all hypothetical, going back to you talking about it being a corporate event. And, you came to that conclusion, I think, by seeing corporate banners.
No, I came to just being at the march and being very present with the march and I spent the entire day with it, the entire evening. So I am not just in one place. I don't know for anybody that hasn't been to the march in New York, it's a big event. It's the entire day. And the parade is extensive. And I think anybody that going, don't just stay in one place, go to the different parts, because there are different kinds of groups along the route. But that was my take, and that it was something that started with a very pure essence that has been turned into more of it feels very corporate. It's been turned into something that is very much a money making. Money is the biggest concern. We have enough money for this. Some interesting interference today.
Yeah.
Well,
so, okay. So can I shift back to to the earlier discussion about a re-entry from COVID?
Yeah.
You're frozen again. It looks like you're just agreeing with me.
I was agreeing with you.
Or we can keep talking about the divine right in the parade.
I mean, it's
it's not different, but I find that on the COVID thing, I've enjoyed not having to interact with so many people. The mask is, and the fear of contagion gave you a really good excuse not to entertain, right? Not to have a bunch of people over, or not to go to events where you said hello and talked with people that you normally wouldn't want to spend time talking with. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Like a fundraiser, cocktail party, whatever. I've enjoyed not having to do that. And the thought of going back into it intimidates me a little bit.
Why? What can you pinpoint what is intimidating about it?
I don't want to withdraw. And I think if I just sort of always feel, Hayley, that if I'm feeling something, other people are feeling it too. So I think that there are other people like me, regardless of our age, except for maybe teenagers, who are eager to reconnect with their friends. I think there are a lot of us, even extroverts, who have enjoyed, this year of quiet. If we have gardens, working in the gardens, if we have a partner, focusing more on the relationship, being more in our home, and the idea of saying, okay, time's up now. I'm going to go off and start attending the Tuesday afternoon lectures and the Sunday morning services and the evening podcasts and I'm not sure I want to go.
I don't think you have to go.
Yeah. Well, can you relate? What about you?
I can relate. I'm an introvert first and then an extrovert. So I love being around people. I love being in the energy of people, but I also like to come home and re-energize. I re-energize on my own versus around other people. I found that I am anxious about sitting at a table on my own.
Yeah, I don't like that either.
I used to be fine with it. And it was one of the things where I really enjoyed, because the amount of people that speak to you when you're on your own, the conversations that you start are always a joy for me. And I'm here with everything opening up going, I don't want to do it on my own. Which is ironic, because you would think with us coming out of COVID, the safest thing to do would be to do things on your own. So I definitely relate with that. I think it's also incredibly difficult to go out from a US perspective because the rules are so loosey-goosey. It's really hard to find out, should I be wearing a mask or should I not be wearing a mask? Here in Merida, you have to wear a mask. There's no loosening on those kind of restrictions. They've allowed, things to open, but you still have to social distance. You still have to wear a mask with or without the vaccination. So I think, when you have that level of anxiety, especially in the US, is to just be patient with yourself. And, are you anxious because you don't exactly know which rule you're supposed to be following? Or are you anxious because you kind of just want to hang at home? I think hang at home. I can't imagine how confusing it is to be in the US right now. It's just every day I see something and I'm just like, that's so confusing.
Well, it's not just, mixed messages people may be feeling they're getting. It's also the awareness of how divided we are, and whether a person's in a mask or not can be sometimes telling you what their political affiliation is. I mean, for the longest time, when we were supposed to be wearing masks, even with vaccination, you assume that if a person had their mask off, they were a Republican. They were defiant. They were arguing that science says, they don't believe in it. And
yeah, I mean, I don't see that as Republican. I just see that as a person questioning. And, to those people too, I have a question. I'm like, okay, they're also, from what I've seen too, a lot of those people that weren't wearing masks are now the ones saying everybody needs to get a vaccine. And if you don't get a vaccine, then you're the person, they have a right to judge you. I'm confused because I'm like, hang on a minute. When we were all wearing masks to protect each other in the community, you didn't want to wear a mask. Now we have the vaccine, which again, to protect the community, you're now all about protecting the community.
Right. But then don't you get stuck there with judgment? And I mean, I know you have the feeling, I have the same feeling. but I don't want to get stuck even thinking about it. You know, I feel like I've got too much to do.
That's where I kind of come back to myself too. I'm like, okay, I'm confused. Do I have an opportunity to speak to them about it? No, because nobody wants to answer that question. Nobody even wants to hear that question. So then it comes to me in terms of, all right, where am I in this? What is my truth? How do I want to be the example of my truest self? So I will do what I think reflects the truth of me and the truth of my heart.
Okay. Is that changing ever, or do you see it staying the same? I'm going back to the code, you know.
Yeah, I don't think the truth of my heart changes. I think how I am willing to show up for that truth changes. Because I'm still at a point now where I'm worried about what other people will think.
Well, regrettably, that, you know, can last your whole life.
It can last.
You know why I say this, Hayley? Going back to the march, you know, I really am, I want to write about it, right? I want to do a post about it, weigh in. And yet there's a part of me that it figuratively is in a very comfortable chair, you know, after almost 50 years of activism. And I'm excited about the movie that was made of the book. And I'm working on my, you know, a book on being gay and gray. And there's a part of me that doesn't want to stir any waters because I don't want to have to deal with any controversy about me. I just want to, you know, do the work that I have set up for myself to do. And yet, you know, I feel like you should be saying something about this. You feel it's wrong. You should be saying something about it. And so you do worry, even at 73, huh?
And that's like, how do you say it without being the contradiction?
How do you say it without, right, without breaking your own? It's hard. You know, the spiritual practice is really hard.
It is.
People think, oh, once you get it, you're all in airy fairyland, and you know, it's like you're playing Candyland your whole life,
chasing unicorns and butterflies.
Yeah, it's really hard work.
It is. The work, you know, the learning, the work never ends. And I think it does feel easier because these things feel a little bit easier to, you know, once I can have my foundation in my heart, it feels like it's a little bit easier to kind of take a step back and really look at it. And sometimes the answer is, I don't know. I don't know what to do right now. I don't know what to say right now. So I'm not going to say anything. I push myself to be courageous and to be able to speak of the essence. I encourage you to write that piece that you want to write, but about the essence of the Pride Parade and how the essence of the Pride Parade is being diluted by this act.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to write about it. I mean, I know that when I bring something up, saying that I am thinking about it, I'm actually creating the reality of me doing it.
You're already marinating.
Right. You know, the fact that I keep talking about the book, it has to happen because I've created the reality of it.
Yeah.
And and that's good. I'm glad about that. I don't know, you know, how it will be received. I'm liking what I'm doing with it. But
So I would challenge you, write this piece, prioritizing essence and kindness. This is the new phase that you're moving into. Well, you're not moving into it, you're in it.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like I've been in it for a long time. What I'm what I'm shocked with, going back to what my original, is my buttons, how easily they're getting pushed, and how not that they're getting pushed, but the strong reaction that it brings from me. And I don't know what that's about. I think people in the U.S. and I know that we're a very privileged country, and even talking about our conflicts is probably insulting to people who really, whose family just died in a bombing. But it's stressful emotionally to recognize that you're not the people you thought you were, and to want to engage, but not engage in a way that just throws red meat to the people who agree with you. To try to be thoughtful, but your fear is that you're going to be as effective being thoughtful as you were as a conscientious objector. That basically they used to send conscientious objectors to the mental wards of the VA hospital to do their 2 years of alternative service, which one could argue was contributing to the betterment of the country, but
it was a punishment. The intention was.
Well, it is, and you're basically getting sidelined. How do you not get sidelined in this really red meat fight that you see going on politically, when you come forth with a message of love? Are you with me?
Absolutely.
Oh God, here they come again. Love your neighbor as yourself. Yeah, well, what about Mitch McConnell? What if he was in it? Or they come up with somebody even more upsetting than him. And you think, I know, but that inside, I feel like, at the end of the day, you all end up in the same box. I love that the old saying that at the end of the day, the king and the pawn go back into the same chess pot. So you played a role for a period of time, but you're just a piece of wood now that is stuck in a box that has no purpose while it's in the box. Do you follow?
Absolutely. And I think
I like that.
That's always my reminder when I get lost in the quagmire. Is we're at the end of the day, we're all equal. At the end of the day, I have to be consistent in what I believe and what I speak. So if I'm going to say that I don't want anybody to judge me, and I don't have the right to judge anybody else, I have to believe that we're equal, and that, it all gets taken care of in the wash. When we get back in that box, we're all equal, regardless of the color, size, shape, belief system. We're all equal. The questioning the discomfort.
It is so fun, Hayley. It is so funny when your face freezes. It's hysterical.
It is the craziest thing. Like, I have my hand by my laptop. If I move my hand, there's interference. So I'm just letting, and like my hand is getting like, so I'm like, I need to move my hand, but I can't move my hand.
You've been having a little difficulty of late with the internet there.
You know what? It's honestly just your calls.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So
you're not freezing up on another call?
I use Zoom for all of my calls. And in this room, this is my work room, and every single one of them goes fine. This morning, my first call this morning, the sound was off, but we fixed that just by playing with the preferences. But yeah, I think it's because we have so much to say and so much energy when we're saying it, we kind of give the internet a bit of a run for its money.
I don't mind that image at all.
I have a similar experience when I speak with my Mayan shaman. Anybody else can be talking, their internet will be fine. He'll stop talking, the internet will break up.
No kidding.
It's very interesting.
Will you tell me about your shaman?
I would love to tell you about one of my shaman. I found another one. Well, I think a better word is I received another shaman. But yeah, coming into one of the reasons, or the reason I am here in Merida is because I had a vision back in, I have to go back in years now, 2019, that there was a shaman in Mexico for me. And I didn't know what to do with it. I was just like, all right, because sometimes we get visions and it's not enough information to actually start planning and doing things about. So it was kind of like, okay, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I then started having conversations with a group of men who have a hotel in Tulum. And I was like, oh, this is a natural, like goes with the vision, helping me get to Mexico. That completely fell apart. So when I was stuck in California at the beginning of COVID, I put out into my network, does anybody know a shaman in Mexico? And immediately a friend got back to me and she's like, check out this guy. And that guy was an English guy that does, he's decently well known on the Gaia network for doing sort of spiritual tours to different places, to high energy places. And he works with a shaman here in Merida. So that's how I ended up. I got in touch with the shaman here, had a reading, and 2 weeks later, I moved to Merida. So he is an amazing being, but a wonderful teacher in terms of the Mayan consciousness and explaining it in a very comfortable way and a very neutral way too. I'm always amazed at how much knowledge these traditional healers have of the world.
Okay, can I, a couple questions?
Yeah.
When you say you had a vision, can you describe, you're talking daytime, nighttime, daydream, not daydream? What's a vision?
It's usually in a meditation or early mornings. So I am usually awake around 3:30 in the morning, and then I'll fall back asleep. And right before I wake up again, which would be like 5:36, that's when I have very real visions,
Dream.
experiences. It's very real. I remember every single part of it. And then I go and research it on my phone. I'm like, I didn't even know this. So that's kind of, and it really just looks like, for this particular one, it was the landscape that I was like, saw, and it was the face, the general face.
The person's face?
Yeah.
So the shaman, what makes a person a shaman? Why would, what, is that a title that they give themselves or that you give them?
A traditional shaman will never call themselves a traditional shaman. They will always call themselves medicine men, healers. It is our term on the outside that gives them that word shaman. Shaman actually is a European word. I think it comes from the Czech Republic or Yugoslavia, Serbia, around that area.
Yeah.
And shaman is a name for medicine or natural healers, but people that heal with plants and nature's energy. So he does not call himself a shaman, he just calls himself a teacher. And in his mind, teaching one person versus 100 million people is the same.
And when do you feel that you in your life will be allow yourself to think of yourself as a shaman?
I'm getting there slowly. It's a, for me, it's a human thing for me because I never want to be egotistical or narcissistic. So being able to say, this is who I am, and put myself in a league with my teachers feels very premature. That being said, I am very comfortable being able to teach, speak, and walk people that are beginning their journey. So, and they call me, I mean, I've been called like the angel, the life mentor, the life coach, the savior, and I'm still not comfortable with any of those things. I'm like, I'm just Hayley.
Yeah.
I'm not spiritual. I'm not a medium. I'm not a channel. I'm just Hayley. I'm just doing what I think I'm meant to do. And this is Hayley.
So tell me, if, in truth, though, you are just Hayley, and I'm just Brian, and anything more than that can confuse us and put us in a wrong direction, send us off, let the ego in, I think. But do you believe in angels? And so are angels just elevated souls?
Yes.
And in human form, who may or may not be aware that they are angels? Probably aren't aware.
Based on what I have seen, based on what I have experienced, any angel in a human form knows that they're an angel.
When?
I think it comes with an opening into who they are and an acceptance that they're a little bit different. I think that's when it happens. I do think that, and I know that there's a lot of people that say everybody's an angel. I think there are different levels of angels. So you have like the Elohim. I see that there's even a higher level than the Elohim. So I think you can break it down to the tiniest detail as much as you want. But I think those people that, at least, my friend Leah, who we met last week, I see her as an angel. And she embodies angel energy, where I'm like, oh my God, Leah, you're such an angel. And I am like a miniature angel compared to you. But I think she's aware of it. She is aware, and she has been aware for a while, that she has this different energy that impacts people differently.
So, namaste.
Mm.
I bow to the divine within you.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that really, I bow to the angel within you? Isn't angel and divine synonymous?
An angel is of the divine. An angel is not the divine.
Okay, but, well, I happen to believe at this point on my journey that everybody has the possibility of touching and releasing their angelic self.
Absolutely. The divine.
The divine, but they're also capable of being an angel. And I talk about angel as just being a human being whose consciousness is operating at a high spiritual vibration, and that their focus in life is loving service. How would you concur with that? I don't think you can be an angel without loving service.
I think it depends on what are you calling every soul an angel?
I think that every soul has the ability to experience its angelic nature. I know that it's all words.
It's
Love God and do your best and leave the rest to God. I say do your best and leave the rest to Brian.
the way that I see it is that we are all of the divine. We all have equal measure of the divine within us.
Uh-huh.
How we experience that is where we differ in our experience of life and of human life. If you take the human body away from it and you're looking at just the soul, the light of the soul, the energy of the soul, I think that is pure innocence, the pure essence of the divine. Souls are, when you take them out of the human body, they are at different levels too. I think you can have younger souls and more elevated souls. And that's how I think we have different levels of angels, different levels of masters and teachers that can speak to souls and teach and guide souls of all levels.
Right. But as soon as you start to organize that, in terms of defining it,
Mm-hmm.
then it becomes a religion. Then it becomes somebody wrote me yesterday and said, can you remember the words to this song that we used to sing at church? Do you pass the baby boomer Catholic quiz? And I said, well, I don't know that particular song, but I can tell you the acts of faith, hope, and love, and the 7 gifts of the Holy Spirit. And so I said, do I pass? When you start to codify and I've asked you to do it, so you're not doing anything wrong. But I think if we agreed upon it and there was a widespread agreement that there are these levels and this is what we're calling them, then I think you take away the divine. I think that's
a human concept. So when I see that, when I am coming back into my soul, into my truth, and I see those different, these different dimensions and frequencies,
manifestations. Yeah.
There is nothing definable about them because they're all of love, they're all of light. It is when we are in the human that we're like, oh, there has to be a difference. There has to be a difference. There is no difference. There's still love and light. They're put in different, they're not put, there are different levels and frequencies to engage the love and light in all beings everywhere. Ultimately, the love and the light is the love and the light.
It is. I mean, you and I set ourselves off, or we were guided into a career of thought, reflection, sharing, courageous giving. But there are gay male couples who have adopted 10 unadoptable children who don't have any time to sit and write or reflect on who's an angel and who's not an angel. But their love, the love that they are manifesting in the decision making and in the process of providing homes for these unadoptable children is no less grand or elevated than Thomas Aquinas or Thomas Merton.
And I think it goes back to that point from a human perspective. Once you put us all back in the box, we're all it's just a box of divine love and light.
Yeah.
It
including the people who make us crazy.
And I think it is, it's my journey. We were talking about this earlier, how regardless of how far we are on the spiritual path and how much understanding we feel we have, it's still tough. There's still things that we have to sit with every day to be all right. Is this the best possible version of me today? Or am I getting caught up in a learning and a growth moment?
Yeah. Hayley, when you get, I'm 73 and I feel, and my mom died at 72, I think. And so I'm at an age in which it would be okay to die. I feel like I didn't get robbed. But there's times, when you actually would welcome it because you're afraid that if you live too much longer, you're going to lose your spiritual light. You're going to screw up. You're going to go down a lane that you have, you don't want to. Please take me now while I still look good in people's.
You would not.
No, I'm just saying that it never ends.
It doesn't, and it's hilarious and it's exhausting, and I always, it is a wonderful experience.
Well, this gift that we have with each other of being able to check in, for me is really important and helps, navigate the next 7 days.
I think that's what we need to do, is just bring it down a little bit in scope and just try to be the best possible version of you right now. And then the next moment, and then the next moment.
Right. And if you're planting a plant, which I was doing before the call and we'll do after the call, focus, be with the plant. You've brought this thing in from the garden center into your garden. You're digging a hole. Do the best job you can with it. Make sure that it has everything it needs to do to grow. Don't be thinking about what you're making for dinner while you're doing that plant, right?
The Mayan shaman that I study with, one of his most touching and remarkable things that he said is everything is a sacred moment.
Yeah, I was very impressed with the Thich Nhat Hanh book, I think Pieces Every Step, where he talks about when he was a child, it'd take 45 minutes to eat a cookie. Now I could eat a cookie and
that's like a packet of cookies for me.
I know, I could, please. That's really, and a gallon of ice cream in that 45 minutes. But it's a great reminder, that if you're raking leaves, rake leaves.
Be present with the leaves.
Be present.
I know that we're out of time, but he's an amazing teacher, and the way that I think he's been instrumental in helping me to understand some of these concepts that can be so complex, the way that he has presented them makes it very livable.
Yes, simplify it. Are we out of time?
We are out of time, my dear Brian, but I wish you a wonderful planting.
Well, and you, I wish a wonderful day, moment, shamanhood.
Yep, we're hoping for rain today, so I'm very present with the possibility of rain.
Well, if it rains, I hope it doesn't freeze like this video.
Oh, there's no chance of freezing.
Let me know if everything comes out all right when you go through it. But I look forward to posting it because I think even with frozen shots, we've talked about some really interesting things that people are thinking about.
And I look forward to reading your piece about the gay policeman and the pride.
Yeah. Okay. I've got that job.
You've got that job to write it with essence and kindness.
Yeah. And I think I may. Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Got it.
Talk soon.
Love you.
Lots of love.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.